Hi, my name is Pinky Ghelani and you are watching Pinky TV. This is What Women Want, and if you're joining us on Facebook, then make sure you drop a comment and let us know where you are watching from. If you are on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to catch more of conversations like this, and of course, make sure you drop a comment here as well. On this show, we have conversations with people about hope, resilience, and excellence. We aim to inspire you to find out who you are by internalizing the discussion we have here today to make you discover yourself. How? Well, I suggest you stay right here to find out. These conversations are brought to you by SBM Bank, and don't forget to watch all the way through to win a brand new phone by Safaricom. I would suggest that you stay right here. Also, we want you to win some diamond jewelry from Art Oro Jewelers, and they say that diamonds are a girl's best friend. So why not you tag 5 of your best friends and watch this show together, and you could be a winner. And while we mostly have women-centric conversations on this show, I always love it when members of the opposite sex are a guest and honor my invite to be a part of this show. The conversations are absolutely not biased to just one gender, and there's so much that we can find out from all our guests. Today, I welcome Peter Njonjo. Peter was named one of the top 40 under 40 back in 2011. He serves as the CEO of Twiga Foods Limited. He spent 21 years with the Coca-Cola Company, with his last role being president of the West and Central African Business Unit, made up of 33 countries. Peter was also the president of the American Chamber of Commerce in Kenya and has been voted among the top leaders in Africa by Forbes Afrique. He currently serves on the global brand of Junior Achievement and is the vice chair of the COVID Advisory Board to the ICT Ministry in Kenya. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Pinky.
Thanks for being here. I hope it doesn't make you feel awkward to be on What Women Want.
Not at all.
I always ask my guests who are gentlemen, what do women want?
Well, that's a very tough question, and I'm presuming that in the next few minutes, at least, I'll share some insights about the journey that I've walked and how that impacts that question.
I'm so happy to have you here, and I thank you so much for your time. I know you're extremely busy, but I just think our audience have a lot to benefit out of having a conversation with you. So I read somewhere that your accountancy career came because of the influence of your mother, who was an accountant herself, right? Can you tell us a little bit about your mom?
So my mom did her accounting qualification in Strathmore, which I also pursued in the same institution many years later. Oh. We actually share a lecturer, Jim McPhee.
Wow.
So, you know, as I grew up, I was always into numbers, math, accounting, and my mom then was the finance director of a local investment fund here.
Okay.
And every time I'd finish school, I'd go to her office and I'd look at the Financial Times or other newspapers from a very early age. And when I read that, I was just fascinated by the business world, and I wanted to be part of that. Because I was always intrigued about everything that was happening in there, and I'd ask her questions, she would respond, and as a result of that, I developed a liking for accounting. And after college, or after high school, I then did my CPA, and that's how I became an accountant.
Did your lecturer ever tell you your mom was better than you, or you're not as good as your mom?
Well, we were many years far between.
I know, but sometimes you hear that from, you know, when you go to your dad's school or your mom's school, it's like, oh, you're not as good as your dad. Your father was far better.
You're a bit of a struggler. So, but the thing is that at least, and actually today, I also share. I'm also on the board of Jim McPhee Education Fund.
Oh, wow.
So we're raising funding for paying education for underprivileged kids. So the thing is that, but then at least dealing with Jim McPhee, I mean, he's an amazing person, amazing human being. A lot of us accountants in this country have passed through his hands.
Wow.
So And I think, if she was ever better than me, I don't know whether the evidence still exists. I mean, that was in the late 70s.
Uh-huh.
So,
I have a feeling. I'm just saying. So what need a mother do to influence or guide her children to find their wings and to be able to fly?
I think it's to inspire them, to see themselves as a solution to a problem that they want to solve in the world. And I think that's I think the inspiration that a mother can give to her children, because mothers do spend a lot of time with the kids, a lot of quality time with the kids. And there's a lot of conversations that happen with mothers that never get to the dads.
Yeah.
So, and using that to then, tap into their curiosity. And I think that's what happens, unfortunately, as we grow up. We become less curious as human beings. And that impacts our creativity and what we can bring to this world. And I think the most important thing a mother can do is always to let the kids know that they can tap into their creativity. They can continue being curious as they look at problems that exist in the world and identify, what do I want to change? What impact do I want to leave? And then they will make a career out of that.
Wow, that's amazing. So reading about you, knowing you as well, I know that you have very strong ethical values. Would you say this has come from your upbringing?
I think it's upbringing and also my career in Coca-Cola. And the reason I say that is, we live in a society that at times does not espouse these values around ethics and integrity. I mean, you only need to open a newspaper and you'll see everything that's happening around us. And one of the things I learned is that to build credibility in this world, then you have to figure out how you will be an island where you can continue to operate with ethics and integrity. And that creates a lot of value for people who then look at the continent outside in, especially for organizations. And just to give you an example, I was running the business in West Africa, in Nigeria. Yeah. And there's always a narrative around Nigeria. Yeah. But the thing is that for 3 years, we always passed our audit. That was at the same level of stringent standards that you have, say, for example, with Europe. Yeah. For example, in Twiga, for us to actually get the Goldman Sachs funding, we had to pass the Foreign Corrupt Practices audit and the UK Anti-Bribery Act audit type audit, skewed specifically just to unearth maybe unethical practices in the business. And there was really no finding. And that's what then encouraged investors then to come on board. So the way I see it is that, ethics and integrity actually builds value as you're setting up whatever it is that you're setting up, because then it creates trust, which is such a scarce currency in the world that we live in today. And I think that for me is what then reinforces the need to continually look at ethics and integrity as being a very core part of myself and the organization that I run.
It's very rare to come by. I mean, especially considering where we live and how easy it is to be just swept up in what goes on within our nation. So right now, 2020, we are in the midst of a pandemic. It almost feels like we're watching a very strange movie. What advice would you give us? Because I know that you're very much involved in a lot of things that entail, COVID-19, etc. So, what would you advise us on how to handle our emotions during these unprecedented times? Because it's unnerving. A lot of people living in fear. So, how do we not succumb to our emotions that can take us down a downward spiral?
I would say that, in life you really can't choose what happens to you.
Right.
So if you can't really choose in terms of what happens to you, then you shouldn't worry about that. What you should worry about is how you react to it. So, and what I find is that, different people react in different ways. There's people then, where something unfortunate happens to them and they fall into despair. What it does is that it impairs decision making going forward in terms of what do I need to do to improve my current situation. And what you find is that there's some people then who react to it very, very positively. And what happens is that they're able then to build their way out of this. I just want to give you an example. And this is a lady I encountered. We recently launched in Kisumu. And there's a market in Kisumu at the stadium. They actually have called it Corona Market for some reason.
Really?
So,
well, it is Kisumu.
So I was there in this market, and there was this lady selling watermelons.
Okay.
And then there was a girl who was helping the lady sell, and she was very, very eloquent. And I asked her, you sound like you're very, very educated. Tell me a little bit about yourself. And she was like, look, I'm actually in Kenya High.
Oh, wow.
And my mom essentially has educated me by selling this watermelons in Corona Market. So, and now we're not going to school. So what I do is that during the day I come and help her. And as a result of what I've put into my mom's business, she's now expanded. There's a lot of things that we're doing. And I'm still able to study in the evenings by browsing and engaging in different online programs. Because some of the schools are really not operational online right now.
Right, yeah.
And that, for me, was a real example of making opportunity out of adversity. Because a lot of maybe young folks will be like, oh gosh, I'm not in school anymore. I'm going to despair. There's nothing to do. And we've seen people who are then maybe engaged in alcohol or other vices, and they waste their youth. But here's somebody who's faced the same challenges and is able to overcome that adversity by having a different mindset. And I think the key thing that I really encourage people during this season is to have a growth mindset. That, as this adversity happens to you, how do you see growth, or how do you try to find growth in the situation that you're in? And if you're able to do that repeatedly, then at some point you'll get a breakthrough. And that's the same approach that I took in Twiga. At times people would say that, you guys are in food, it should be easy for you to figure it out. But it wasn't. In April, when the country shut down, we lost all our business in restaurants. We lost all our businesses in the roadside vibandas, as everybody now was afraid of Corona, was afraid to even sit next to somebody else. Yeah. And we still managed to pivot out of that and continue growing. So, and I think it's a lot about the mindset and the belief that you have that, it's actually within your control if you really search really deep.
Yeah. I know, because when we look at when the first case was announced in Kenya, and everybody went into panic mode, and it was we were in a very different place even then than we are today, which is November. We're headed to November 2020. And I think a lot of people who are in a panic mode sort of can look back and say, okay, I've evolved, or I've been able to develop myself in some way or another. Yeah. Which is important. But how do you build character so that you're able to face a crisis without flinching?
I would say that it's not something you build overnight, and it's about the outlook that you have to life. There has to be a bit of optimism, because life is about hope. And if you fall into hopelessness, it makes it very hard for you to even try to think of ways you can face the future. And what I say is that, building that character, I think part of it comes from being very, very hopeful. I always hope for a better situation, no matter how dire it is. I always look at it and ask myself, how can I improve this situation? The second thing is that I accept reality. So I will not have romantic notions of the situation I am in. If I'm in a bad situation, I acknowledge I'm in a really bad situation. And what I need to do is the following: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. What you have is that, and I think what challenges a lot of people is there's maybe a low level of self-awareness when you're like, you know what, I'm in trouble, and I need to acknowledge I'm in trouble. So what do I need to do to get out of trouble? And making that transition sounds very easy, but it's not. The people who will be in trouble, they'll be in denial for a very, very long time. They make their situation worse by not having that realization very early on when it happens. And then they'll be very slow to take action. And what happens is that we're living in a very, very competitive world, you know? So if you slacken, somebody else is ready to take that opportunity and run with it. And I think that's what I've found to be very, very important in terms of how I look at life. That, you know, have a level of self-awareness that makes you understand your current situation, what you cannot do in that situation, and then be very realistic in the type of plan that you put forward to move to a better position and not losing hope.
Yeah. It's very easy to say that. Like you said, it's easier said than done. And when you look at the youth today, there's a lot of struggle. There's a lot of hopelessness that they are facing. And because of what's going on, you know, people have been sitting at home for a very long time. And like you rightly said, you know, there's other vices aside from alcohol that they could have gone into. But mental health has become a big thing, you know, that we may not see the impact right now, but give it another 5 years. You know, children who are 10 today sitting at home are teenagers 5 years from now, or, you know, young men who are 15 today will be, you know, 25 years from now. What can you say in regards to mental health, especially for young men, boys? How do they take responsibility for their own mental health and know that tomorrow will be brighter? There's nothing that is so dim, so low that you cannot come out of.
So maybe just building a bridge from the question that you'd asked previously. I think I have the luxury of maybe having a 22-year experience and career that maybe allows me to share my experience in a way that is very, very succinct. But the thing is that some of these young people really don't have that level of self-awareness, and there's a lot of despair that's out there. Yes. And I think the key thing that we can then do as a society is really start confronting the issue around mental health. You know, when I was sitting in the COVID ICT committee, just listening to some of the innovations that were out there, some of them were brilliant in terms of, you know, how to leverage technology to start providing counseling to young people at no cost. Mm-hmm. Because what you find is that, you know, in that state of despair, it's very easy to lose hope.
Yeah.
And I think the key thing is that we need to find a way to create an ecosystem where we're more or less reaching out to these young people and spending resources, helping them from a mental health standpoint. Because the thing is that we can then say that, you know, you need to be hopeful, you need to be this, you need to be that. But when you're in a situation where you feel very, very hopeless, it's very hard to snap out of it. Now, it's even more unfortunate when a significant part of the population is in that space. Mm-hmm. And just to give you context, you know, some of the analytics that we ran in the very, very early part of COVID, you know, working with the good McKinsey team here in Kenya, showed that, you know, in Kenya, give and take about 3 million formal jobs. Right. You know, we were going to lose about 750,000 of those from COVID. Or if you look at the 18 million informal jobs, you know, we could have maybe even 10 to 11 million people underemployed. So when you think about that sheer impact, the key thing is that then how do you then start creating an ecosystem that creates some sort of mental support to a lot of individuals? Because, and I think that's maybe one of the biggest gaps that we have right now. And it's something that if we do not address in a very, very wholesome way now, then would lead to a broken society in a couple of years' time. So I think it's a very, very important thing that we need to bring front and center.
And it is up to us. We cannot wait for someone else to sort of, it's you, me, it's anybody who's watching to take responsibility and say, this is a conversation that needs to be normalized. I recognize somebody's not in a good space, and sort of assisting, helping. Like you said, we don't want to be broken. We want to be
exactly
together in this. So you've built a business, and yet there have been so many challenges that you've faced. You say that, and I read this, that you had to sell your house at one point to get your business going. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It wasn't my house.
Okay. Oh, it wasn't your house.
It was a
house.
matrimonial
Somebody's
property.
Oh, wow.
So it
okay.
was my wife's and I.
Okay.
So
I like that. Well done, Peter. You see why we have him on our show. Yeah, well done.
So
well done, Tina, as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And the key thing is that, you know, at that point in time, and this is what people don't see in terms of the struggle that goes in building a business. Sometimes what you see is the end product, which is after many, many years. Yeah. It's been 6 years, going to 7 since we started Twiga. And I remember that time, you know, we had a term sheet, which means that, you know, an investor had shown interest in financing Twiga. We were using our resources then to finance the business. Sometimes Tina would pick up some payroll on certain months. I would finance other operating expenses and all. And during that time, you know, we basically drained all our resources. Any saving, any amount of short-term credit that I could get, we were up to here in debt. And I remember we were at Art Cafe in Lavington. And I was just telling Tina, you know, I think I've gotten to my end. Oh. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And she just said, why don't you sell the house? And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So I found out the waiter, I said, give me the bill right now. Yeah. So I want to go home and start taking pictures. So I took pictures, posted it, and we sold it. It was the best decision we ever made.
I mean, that is phenomenal. Yeah. But and you say it with such a big smile, because I wanted to ask you, you know, what did you go through? What emotions did you go through? What's the self-talk that you have when you make a decision like that?
Well, I would say that, you know, we were taking a lot of risk.
Yeah.
But it was also measured risk, because we were starting to see some interest coming through from investors. And all I knew was that we needed just enough runway to get to a point where an investor would then say, okay, fine, I like the business, I like what you guys have built, now I'm ready to write a check. So I just needed to get the business to that point, because we had put in so much. And I think, you know, yes, there was risk. When I was in the situation, there was just so much focus on solving the problem that at times you're blinded to the risk that you're taking. But in my mind, I was like, you know what? I'm young. If I fail, I'll bounce back.
Wow.
So, but the thing is that, but if I don't do this, I will look back and I'll have regret. And I'd rather not live with regret. So I'd rather just go all out and make this work. So that was it. So, but once in a while, we'd pass in Karen and I'd be like, gosh, can we just swing by the house?
I know, but
but the thing is that you kind of just learn to move on, and we'll figure it out. I mean, we'll get another house and all that.
My mother always said, you know, things can be replaced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is that it's been an amazing journey.
Yeah.
I look at Twiga today. We employ 1,000 people.
Wow.
So there's 1,000 people every month getting a livelihood from us. There's 30,000 retailers every month that are being served by Twiga, and that's impact, and that's bigger than owning a house.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know how many people think like that, but I completely agree. So you've managed to generate a lot of interest by doing something completely innovative. You've ran with a unique idea. What advice would you give anybody who's watching when it comes to taking a risk?
First thing is that, and I like saying this with a lot of humility, entrepreneurship is not for everybody. So I think the key thing is that look first of all at your risk appetite, and ask yourself, am I the type of person to bet everything to make something work? And if you're not that passionate about what it is that you're doing, then just know that it's going to be a very, very tough journey that goes against maybe what you hold dear. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, if you're going to get into business, what I say is that try and solve a problem. Because if you solve a problem, then that creates something that is sustainable. Because what you find is that a lot of people copy ideas. Just in terms of like, I saw so-and-so doing something, but you don't know what really motivated them to start that business. So the key thing is that first of all, understand the problem that you're trying to solve, and then find ways in which you can then solve that problem in the most efficient way possible that makes you generate value in the market. So when I look at, for example, in the case of Twiga, when I look at the fresh fruit and vegetable value chain, in Kenya, because of poor handling of produce, we lose 30 to 40% before it even makes it to the table. And that's just product that's wasted, that falls on the side of a road, or it gets squished and it's not sellable. So there's all those challenges. And what we say is, look, if we can solve the issue around waste and then ensure that we are able to produce this at the lowest cost, I think we have a business. So it's that very, very simple problem that we are trying to solve. And I think the key thing is that be very clear about the problem that you're trying to solve. And then from there, ensure that you're passionate about it, because tough times will come. There's a curve I normally like sharing with my team where, when you start a business, your confidence is up here. You want to change the world and you're like, yes, we're going to do this. You do this strategic plan on PowerPoint. Everything looks so rosy. You have a very fat cash projection at the end of that presentation. Then life starts to happen. And then you start losing your confidence. And then there's a line where that graph hits 0. But you know what you do? You dig. You go under 0. And you totally lose your confidence. And then that's the point where we call the trough of sorrow.
Wow.
Where you're trying to do things and things don't work. But the thing is that you're iterating. You're trying this, it doesn't work. You try this, it doesn't work. It works, and when you think you're out of it, it fails again. And there's like little successes and failures. And then things start working slowly after a lot of iteration, and you start rebuilding your confidence, and you go beyond 0, and then from there you have a sustainable business. Many people cannot go through the trough of sorrow, which is essentially what it takes to build a business, where you're letting go of your biases and you're doing things now that make sense for your customers. So, and that transition is a very painful transition, where you have to let go what you thought you knew to embrace what your customers want. And if you don't have the passion to go through that, then a lot of people fail while they're in the trough of sorrow, and they decide that it's not worth it.
I hope you're taking notes, because this is pretty powerful stuff. So how important is it for businesses to embrace technological advancements to remain relevant?
I think in the world that we live today, for you to build a sustainable business, you cannot do it without technology. And the reason why I say that is, technology allows you to create efficiency that was previously not possible. So you shouldn't look at technology just as a means. It's essentially a way to actually transform an industry. I'll give you an example. In the case of Kisumu, we launched 4 weeks ago. And we targeted customers within a 5-kilometer radius of where we have our warehouse. We encouraged all the retailers to use their mobile phones to then access the products that we were selling. In 4 weeks, 65% of the customers within this 5-kilometer radius have used the Twiga platform. They've paid on it, They've gotten a delivery, and we've just basically grown very remarkably in a market like that. Now, think about serving 950 customers, and you don't have technology. You don't know where that product is going. You don't know who has ordered, where they're located, how to actually get the delivery truck to get the product to them. And what we've created to be a very, very efficient business would not have been possible if we did not have technology. So the key thing is to then look at technology in the industry that you're operating and actually ask yourself, how will technology help me build efficiency? And that efficiency is what disrupts incumbents, because incumbents take a long time to embrace technology. Yeah. But the thing is that if you have this mindset around leveraging technology, I'll give you another example. You know, I got this, there was a young company that presented during the COVID ICT committee. And what they said is, look, we have a new way of marketing where we've, instead of using influencers to trend the subject that you're after, we're able to then just use normal people who are willing to tweet for 50 shillings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and it was interesting. So you go on the platform, you enter whatever it is that you want to promote, and then you then say, okay, I'll give you 50 before you tweet and 50 after you tweet.
Wow.
And in 20 minutes, we trended for the whole, in 20 minutes we trended and we remained trending for the whole day. And I was like, this is brilliant. But you can see now that they've created a media channel using technology. And those are young guys who maybe would have been saying that, you know, we're so desperate, there's nothing out there to do. And that's what technology does with the same social media that everybody's using, but they've been able to commercialize it. So, and I think that's the value of technology in the world that we live in today.
I think we shouldn't be afraid of technology. I think a lot of people over 40 are fearful, like, oh, it's, but it's, like you said, it can be really used to your advantage.
We need to embrace it. I mean, I look at my youngest daughter, she's 4 years.
Yeah.
And for her, the life on the screen is not an alternative world, or it's what she knows.
Yep.
Either I'm interacting with people in here, or I'm interacting with people
on
in
the
here.
Screen, yeah.
So there's a huge blur, and you know, Tina really made us laugh. My wife Tina. This was like 4 weeks ago. She I think 2 weeks ago she brought the manual dial phone home.
She asked them, what is this?
And she asked them, what is this and how do you use it?
Yeah.
And they had no idea.
Yeah.
And it was so funny just watching them, and it just looks so unreal. But I'm like, you know, but all these kids were born when we had smartphones mobile phones.
Exactly.
And those are the things that we take for granted. And those people will be consumers very shortly.
Yes.
So if you're not in the technology space, you'll lose them.
Yeah. My daughter keeps asking me, she's 10 though, she's like, can you show me really old cars that you people used to use in the 90s? I'm like, that's not really old cars. But you know, like you said, this is I'm so glad you keep bringing Tina up in this conversation, because I think she's an amazing person. I've met her personally. I think she's strong-willed, she's very gracious. How important is it when we're getting, you know, when we're choosing our partners for life, how important is it that we choose somebody who shares the same principles and core values as us?
I think the thing is that through marriage, you keep on learning more.
Hopefully.
Your partner. And
some people don't.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And what you find is that, you know, it's very hard to have like a checkbox to then say, okay, these are my prerequisites, you know, and you kind of go ticking them. I think the most important thing is to share ideas and always find common ground. Always look at it from the perspective of, you know what, there's a lot we don't know, and we will get onto this journey of discovery. And as we discover things out there, we will always try and find common ground and building those ideas. And it's and it comes also from building trust that, as I'm sharing this, I'm sharing with the best intention, and I'm actually asking because I feel that it's in the best interest of whatever it is that we're trying to build as a couple, for our family, and for the legacy that we want to leave in this world. And having that openness. For example, when I ran out of money for payroll, and I'm reaching out to Tina saying, hey, by the way, are you able to sort out a bit of a payroll this month? She would not support that if she did not have an understanding of what it is that I was trying to build and how important it is for me and for the family. So, and that openness in sharing your vision and always finding common ground, I think is the recipe in terms of then building something that lasts.
Is it also important as a man to not be afraid to reach out to your spouse, to your wife, to say, look, I need a bit of support?
Well, I think it's about how secure you also feel about yourself. So, because the thing is that I'm not reaching out because of significant shortcomings. The thing is that I need help here, and I know you can help me.
Yeah.
So if I know you can help me, I will ask for the help.
Yeah.
Because if I don't ask, it won't get done. And at the end of the day, in 2 weeks, I'll feel great about myself that I didn't ask for help, but it's still not done. So if you're in the space of, I need to always make progress and I need to always get things done, then you're secure enough to ask for help.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing I've learned, even in business today. There's times where I'm having a board meeting with my investors, and I tell them that for this, I actually don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to solve this, and anybody has an idea, please reach out to me. And I get people chipping in, and I solve the problem. So, and I think, we just need to be secure about ourselves and not be afraid to ask, because that's where growth comes from.
What sort of a father are you, considering that you already have your hands full? Are you a present father?
I would say that when I was working in Coca-Cola, I was not present. And the reason why I was not present is, I was traveling 85% of the time. So you're always on the road. And what that does is, you kind of get into a mental space where you feel that, yes, I'm doing this for the family. Yeah. And I'm doing this for their well-being.
I'm there.
Yeah, so, I'm taking care of stuff.
Yes, yeah.
But at the end of the day, you realize that, the kids are growing. And what happens is that when you come back home, you feel like you have to start again from scratch. Because what happens, especially with kids on phone, first day, very long conversation. Second day, shorter. Third day, shorter. And then the next day, they don't want to Tina is there threatening the kids. Yeah. If you don't say hi to your dad, I'll slap you, or I'll spank you. That's what happens. And you realize that, you then become distant. Yeah. And one of the things I'm really thankful for is running my own business, is that I'm able to spend more time here. I'm able to see them in the morning. I'm able to see them in the evening. We're able to chat. We're able to fool around. For example, on Sundays now, I started doing biking with my son. Oh, nice. That's something that you can't do from
a phone call
out there. Yeah. Using a phone call. And the thing is that all these things then start creating a bond. And I think that, for me, one of the things I really want to do is be more present in their lives than I was previously. And that's why I really treasure the fact that not that I'm in charge of my own time, there's still a huge demand on my time.
Sure.
But I can then make calls that this is a time I want to block for family, and I can do that.
How important is it for fathers to empower their daughters?
I think it's extremely important, mainly because sometimes the world can show them or always remind them about the limitations, that, this happens, that happens, you can't aspire to be that, you can't aspire to be this. And I think it is important that, one, is being present, and just your daughter feeling that daddy's here, and yeah, and at times, you know, maybe they don't want to talk to you, but they're happy you're around.
Yeah.
You know, and that's very, very important. So just being a constant in their lives, and that builds a lot of confidence in them and a lot of self-worth. You know, when at least you keep on also reinforcing the fact that, you know, you're intelligent. If you put your mind to it, then you can always
do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just getting them a role model so they can read about. And I really also want to thank Tina, because she's always buying books about, you know, women who chose to be different.
Right.
And these are stories about women who actually really exited in their fields.
Yeah.
And once they start having those role models and you really encourage them, then it starts then creating a growth mindset in them, that I can actually see a problem in the world and solve it, and my gender really doesn't determine that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very, very powerful transition to make. And,
yes.
And then they grow to be people who can add value to the world.
Wow, Peter, thank you so much. I mean, what an exceptional conversation. I want to say thank you so much to you for watching. These conversations are brought to you by SBM Bank. SBM Bank has introduced the Go Cashless campaign and has been making donations towards the COVID-19 pandemic. For your chance to win a brand new phone, make sure you subscribe. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the newsletter, and subscribe to Safaricom Postpay. I'll make sure that all these links are on the caption below. Peter and I would love to hear from you, and we hope that Peter has taught you about leadership and what it takes to be a true leader. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Pinky, for having me over.
And thank you for being the person that you are. Keep doing what you're doing, because we do need more people like you. You're indeed a role model.
Thank you so much.
On this show, we have conversations that aim to inspire, and we hope that it causes you to take a deep dive within yourself to find out who you are. Real power is always internal. Real power is self-love. Real power is from your core, and real power comes from authenticity. There's nothing like showing up as your authentic self. Find that person and show up as that person every day. The world will be grateful that you did. Don't forget to follow me on all my social media platforms to find out what's going on with this show and more content. My name is Pinky Ghelani, and I thank you so much for watching Pinky TV. We'll see you again real soon.